Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of A Good Sports Show. Thank you for tuning in and checking out the show. I'm your host, Randy Goodman. You can follow me on Instagram at rangood03, and the show is on all social media outlets. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at A Good Sports Show. And then also the show is on Facebook. You can just go in the little search bar up at the top and type in A Good Sports Show and hit the like button to like our fan page. I'm always posting daily hot sports opinions and sharing some fun sports articles and things like that. Then also the show is on YouTube. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. I appreciate you subscribing, and you'll get an alert whenever there's a new episode of the show. I know we're getting close to 1,000 YouTube subscribers, and that's very exciting. And once again, I appreciate everybody for subscribing and checking out the show and your support as we continue on here with this fun DFW Sports Talk. But yeah, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and subscribe to the show, and we're going to go ahead and get started with some college football talk. This Saturday morning, it's going to be East Carolina at number 23 SMU. East Carolina's coming this game with 3-6 record. SMU's 8-1. SMU lost a heartbreaking game, 54-48. Up in Memphis last Saturday night. That was a nationally televised game on ABC. That was a lot of fun to watch. It just seemed like SMU was, just from the get-go, they were playing from behind, and then also their special teams coverage wasn't that good, and they were allowing big returns and things like that from Memphis. But anyway, that's in the past. Let's go ahead and move forward to this week. This Saturday's meeting is the 8th meeting between the Mustangs and the Pirates. East Carolina holds the advantage at 4-3 playing SMU. SMU has won the most recent matchup. They won 55-31 in 2016. And ECU won the last time the two teams met in Dallas. That was back in 2015. And East Carolina won that game 49-23. And I'm sure most of you have seen the new college football rankings that came out. And SMU is ranked number 25 in that poll. With that loss they had to Memphis, they dropped about 6, 7, or actually no, almost 9 spots in the AP poll. But in this first college football rankings, they appear at number 25, so they gotta win out and kind of move up into the teens to play in a really good bowl game this next month. And like I said, SMU, they fell 54-48. They're 8-1. This is the best start for the Mustangs since going 10-1 in 1983. That's just amazing. This team. This city is behind the Mustangs, and this is Dallas's college football team, and a lot of excitement on the hilltop. And just kind of some stats about the Mustangs. They top the FBS in sacks at 4.44 per game, and they're third in tackles for loss at 8.8 a game. And they're actually first in the American Athletic Conference in this tackle for loss stat. And then SMU, they rank 8th nationally in total offense at 509 yards a game, and 7th nationally in scoring offense at 43, just a little over 43 points a game. And the Mustangs have scored 40 plus. Again, this is an interesting stat. The Mustangs have scored 40 plus points in 7 games this season, and that ties a program record from 2017. And another SMU nugget, they've had at least 34 points in each game this season. It's just amazing what this offense has done. And Coach Dykes and Shane Buechele, just slinging the ball around. And this is a really fun team to watch. And the Mustangs have outscored opponents 93-27 and now gained them 1,289 to 602 in the first quarter of this season. I mean, they're doubling up the teams they're playing. And then at the half, SMU's outscored their opponents 193 to 109 and then outgained them 2405 to 1529. But the Mustangs, once they get out to a lead and they get to halftime, so it's hard to come back on this team. Yeah, the Mustangs, they have 27 rushing touchdowns this year. That's just amazing. They had 3 touchdowns last week against Memphis. And like I said, Shane Buechele, he threw 456 yards and 3 touchdowns at Memphis on Saturday night. And he's had multiple passing touchdown games in the 8 straight games. In his own, now here's interesting number. He is only one of 2 FBS players with 450 plus passing yards in multiple games this season. That's just amazing for Buechele. And that's also attributing to the 8-1 record that the Mustangs have this year. And then kind of looking at East Carolina, they enter this game on a 4-game losing streak. And they've also dropped 4 straight conference matchups. And their last win was in September, and they won 24-21 over Old Dominion. And they're 5th in the league's East Division at 3-5 overall. My prediction for this game, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say SMU wins. But I think this game may be a little bit closer than what maybe people expect. I'm going to take East Carolina and the 21.5 points in this game. So SMU to win, and then East Carolina plus the 21.5. I'll take that one. I think this is going to be a little bit closer. And that game is at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. So now we're going to look at the big marquee game in college football this weekend. It's LSU and Alabama. And these two teams will meet for the 84th time on Saturday. The Crimson Tide, they still have a big lead in this series, all-time series with LSU, 53-25-5. And they did win last year's game in Baton Rouge. It won 29-0. And then another stab between these two schools, you'd think it'd be more even, but Alabama they've won the last 8 meetings between these two schools. And that's also including the 24-10 and the Tigers' last visit to Tuscaloosa in 2017. So since that game of the century game in 2011, Alabama's rolled off 8 straight wins over LSU. Nick Saban, he's 10-4 in his career against LSU. And he has a 10-3 mark at Alabama. Coach O for LSU, he's 0-6 all time against Crimson Tide. And that also includes a 0-3 mark as head coach of the Tigers. And then interesting stat about Alabama playing at home. They have the best all-time home winning percentage in the FBS at about 83%. That's 271 wins, 53 losses, and 3 ties at Bryant-Denny Stadium since the stadium opened in 1929. It's just a hard place to get a win in Tuscaloosa as a visiting team. And a little bit about LSU, they've won 9 straight dating back to last year. And LSU, their schedule, it's tough as a $2 steak. This is the 4th top 10 team they're going to be playing this year. and they're 3-0, of course, against the top 10 teams in 2019. And LSU is the only team in college football with 3 top 10 wins to its credit this year. And these Tigers, I mean, they played Texas. They beat Texas on the road. They beat Florida. And then they beat Auburn. Were the 3 top 10 matchups. And now you add Alabama in the mix. And, I mean, this is just this is a hell of a schedule for LSU. It's just brutal. And a little bit about the stats with LSU. They lead the SEC in total offense. About 535 yards. The passing offense, they have 377. And the red zone offense, 43 out of 44, which is just amazing. And the Tigers are number 2 in the league in scoring offense at almost 47 points a game. And then, of course, the LSU defense is great too. They're only one of 2 teams in the SEC to hold opponents to under 100 yards rushing a game. And so the Tigers, that's something that you're going to be looking for in this game, as Alabama trying to establish the run. With Tua, out and injured, Alabama's going to have to establish a run early on this LSU defense. As the Tigers, like I said, they're allowing only 97.9 yards rushing a game, and they're number 4 in the SEC in total defense, just giving up 315 yards a game. And going to go back towards the LSU offense. Joe Burrow, which I feel he's going to end up winning the Heisman Trophy. He leads the SEC and ranks 2nd in the nation in passing yards. He's thrown for 2,805 yards. His passing yards per game is 350. He has 30 passing touchdowns. He's also 1st in the SEC and number 3 in the nation in total offense, 366. And then, of course, he's also on pace to break every LSU single-season passing record. I mean, this guy I talk about Shane Buechele slinging it around. This guy, Joe Burrow, he's a real deal. And I feel that, just real quick, that Burrow's he's going to have a first-round draft grade on him. And I could see him going easily in the top 10 in the upcoming NFL draft. But we'll save that for down the road once the season's over and we do some draft talk. But yeah, Joe Burrow, man, once that guy gets going, it is scary. Then kind of talking about the Alabama defense, because Joe Burrow's coming in there and he's got to get going early. Like Alabama just got to get their running game going early. Joe Burrow's got to get the passing game going early. Through 8 games in the 2019 season, Alabama leads the nation for turnover margin, averaging 1.63 per game. And they're also tied for 4th in turnovers lost, 5, and then tied for 6th in turnovers gained, 18. So that's kind of something to look for with this. That Alabama defense is going to try to pressure Joe Burrow into making mistakes and turning the ball over, and probably hopefully get some interceptions for the Crimson Tide. And then this is a nugget for the Crimson Tide. Since the start of the 2009 season, no team has allowed fewer touchdowns than the Crimson Tide. And Alabama surrendered only 232 touchdowns over the last of 147 games. And that's just impressive. And in Alabama, they've just allowed 35 scores on the ground in the last 67 games, dating back to 2015. And then they've allowed only 11 rushing touchdowns in 2018, after allowing just 9 rushing touchdowns in 2017. So the Alabama defense is going to be looking to stuff LSU up on the line, and then make Burrow, make him beat them. But it's just going to be tough. That's going to be a really tough game for LSU to win at Alabama. But I think they can do it. I think this is a year that LSU is going to break that 8-game losing streak and get the win. I think it's going to be a really close game. I could see it something like maybe 28-24 or maybe 30-27, somewhere in there between Alabama and LSU. But I really feel that this is the year that LSU is going to go over that hump and beat Alabama and beat Nick Saban. And then for my prediction, like I said, I'm going to take LSU to win. But I am going to take Alabama in that 6.5 points since they're playing at home. Just with this being a close game and everything, and these two teams, and their hatred for each other. And so now we're going to move on to my 6-pack of college football picks. Last week was my best week of the season. I ended up going 5-1 on my college football picks. I was just kind of shocked on that one. If you were wondering, the only one I didn't get right was UAB at Tennessee. I went ahead and took UAB. I think it was like 12.5 points or 13.5 points as the underdog. And I thought UAB was going to play a closer game, and they ended up getting blown out. But hey, that's the way these picks go, and anything can happen any week. That's why it's any given Saturday, and sometimes you take these underdogs and they hit, and sometimes you take these underdogs and they fail. So just roll on. All right, so my 6-pack of college football picks for this week, I'm going to go with the first game I've got listed, number 4, Penn State, at number 17, Minnesota. I'm going to take, both teams are undefeated. I'm going to take Minnesota at home, plus the 6.5 points. I was talking about East Carolina and SMU. I'm going to take East Carolina plus the 21.5 at SMU. Go Mustangs. I've got number 12 Baylor. They're a 3.5 point favorite at TCU. I'm taking Baylor. Kansas State, number 16. Kansas State been on a hot streak lately, and they beat OU 2 weeks ago. I'm going to go ahead and go with Kansas State on the road and take the 7.5 points at Texas. And then, of course, we've got LSU at Alabama. Like I said, I'm taking Alabama plus the 6.5 points. And the last one, the 6-pack, Vanderbilt at Florida, number 10 Florida. I'm going to take Florida minus the 27.5 points. I just think Florida's going to end up routing Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt doesn't have much to offer this year. All right, so 6-pack college football picks, Minnesota, East Carolina, Baylor, Kansas State, Alabama, and Florida. All right, let's segue over to Dallas Cowboys talk. The Cowboys are playing the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry, folks. That was a heelish comment there. The Minnesota Vikings in Sunday Night Football this week. Minnesota comes in 6-3. Dallas is 5-3. The Cowboys got a win in New York this past Monday night on Monday Night Football. Kind of look at the history between the Vikings and the Cowboys. The Cowboys they lead the all-time series between these two teams. It's 12-11, and the Cowboys have won the past two games between these two teams. And the last game, if you were wondering, it was December 1st of 2016. The Cowboys won 17-15 up in Minnesota. And then the last game at Cowboys Stadium between these two teams, Cowboys won on November 3rd, 2013, winning that game 27-23. And so, like I said, the Cowboys won last week. They won 37-18 at New York. Dak had 257 yards passing with 3 touchdowns and interception, and a 101.7 rating in the win. This game's gonna be tough for the Cowboys. I think it's gonna be a defensive game between these two teams. The Vikings, they lost last week, 26-23 at Kansas City. The Vikings, they're averaging around 26 points a game, and the Cowboys are averaging around 28 points a game. And both teams, which is actually an interesting stat, they're giving up just a little over 17 points a game. So like I said, this is probably going to be a low-scoring game between the Vikings and the Cowboys. A little bit about the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, he had 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions and had a 94 rating last week against the Chiefs in that loss. Dalvin Cook, he had 116 scrimmage yards last week in that game. And that's a guy you have to look out for on Sunday night. Cowboys are really going to have to look out for him because you do not want to let Cook get open in that secondary. And once he's gone, once he's out there, it's house call for Dalvin Cook. So the matchup I'm looking for in that one is going to be Dalvin Cook versus Jalen Smith. So we'll kind of have to see how that matchup kind of plays out. And then, of course, you got to watch out for Stephon Diggs as well. And, of course, Thielen and also Johnson. So we'll just kind of see how it goes with the Vikings and the Cowboys. And for the Cowboys, you got Elliott. Elliott, he rushed for 139 yards last week. He's looking for his fourth game in a row with 100-plus rushing yards. And then, of course, Amari Cooper, he had 80 receiving yards last week and a touchdown in the Giants game. And then, of course, the Cowboys, their defense, Robert Quinn and Lawrence and Michael Bennett actually got a sack in his debut last week for the Cowboys. And then Xavier Woods, he had an interception, a forced fumble. So that's kind of what you have to look out for in this game. And the Cowboys they have got to force some turnovers in this game against the Vikings. And I think they can do that. If they can get the pressure on Cousins and get him to make mistakes, I think this defense will really push them, and the Cowboys can get a win on Sunday night. So I'm going to say the Cowboys. So for the prediction for this game, I'm going to say the Cowboys. Let's go Cowboys 20 and the Vikings 17 in this one. That's kind of a low-scoring game, but I think that's how we're going to go with this one. And now we're going to switch over. We're going to step inside the ring for a little bit here, and we're going to talk some WWE Crown Jewel. This pay-per-view event that was on WWE Network this was actually on Halloween. My personal feeling on this pay-per-view that it sucked. Sorry Vince, sorry WWE fans. There were some parts of this pay-per-view I'll be honest with you, I actually fast-forwarded through. But kind of run down this card real quick and just kind of my analysis on it. There was a new wrestler that got brought up that actually got drafted to Raw. His name Humberto Carrillo, and you're probably like, who? Anyway, so he won the 20-man battle royal for the right to face AJ Styles later on in the card. And I'll tell you real briefly that AJ Styles, not a surprise, He did win that match with Carrillo. I actually fast-forwarded through most of that match because I already knew that Styles was going to win. So there really was no surprise factor on that one. But yeah, so that match was kind of a yawner. And then you've got, to start the show, it was WWE Champion Brock Lesnar versus Cain Velasquez. And I was kind of surprised that they started the show with this. This match didn't last long. Lesnar made Velasquez tap out, had him in the arm bar and bent his arm backwards, and Velasquez typed out, and then they hype it as Brock gets his 9-year awaited 9-year revenge on Velasquez. Well, this match was a squash. It was a joke. So we'll just kind of see how things go. So now they have Rey Mysterio that's in the mix with this, because Lesnar beat up his kid Dominic. So now Rey Mysterio is going to be going against Lesnar at Survivor Series. And I wonder who's going to win that match. I don't think Rey Mysterio is going to be doing a 619 and beating Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series. So, anyway, alright, back to Crown Jewel. Then you've got the Tag Team World Cup. I guess the best in the world, best tag team in the world. I don't think really any of the teams that were involved in this could consider themselves the best tag team in the world. Just my opinion, but the OC won. That's Gallows and Anderson. Like I said, I fast-forwarded through a lot of that match. Then you have Mansoor versus Cesaro. You can go watch that one on the WWE Network. I didn't watch hardly any of that match. Tyson Fury, he took on Braun Strowman. And I believe I said in my last show, I didn't know how they were going to book the finish to Fury and Strowman. Like I said, it's just, are you going to give a clean loss to Braun Strowman? Is Fury going to take a loss? Fury's not going to take a loss. So the way that this match ended up going down, these two guys fought, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes to where Strowman is on the outside of the ring apron on the ropes, and then Fury came over and gave him a punch and supposedly knocked out Strowman, or knocked him silly to where he couldn't answer the 10 count to roll back in the ring to win, to continue fighting. So Fury ends up winning that match in a count out. So, and then of course after the match, Strowman's pissed. He gets in the ring and gives a body slam to Fury, and then says, "This is my ring." So, anyway, whatever. If these two continue on, they continue on. If it's just a one-off, it's a one-off. Fury got the win. And then you have Samir Singh defeating R-Truth to become the 24/7 champion. This 24/7 champion bit, I think it's pretty much ran its course. I know me personally, I'm tired of seeing it. I was getting tired of the stupid run-ins during matches or during interviews, and R-Truth getting in the ring, and then about 10 or 12 wrestlers trying to chase him down. And the thought I had going through my mind was the Benny Hill theme song going on as they're chasing R-Truth to try to pin him to become the 24/7 champion. Just a stupid storyline by WWE, and they just need to go ahead and just find a dumpster, light it up, and throw this belt inside of it. It's stupid. All right, keep going on here. Yeah, I'm a little salty this week. All right, so then you've got Natalya versus Lacey Evans. They continued their feud over in Saudi Arabia. and this is a This is a big moment for two female wrestlers to wrestle over in Saudi Arabia. This was a huge moment. And this is actually a pretty good match between these two. And Natalya did defeat Lacey Evans in this match. But yeah, if there's any matches I would recommend going back and actually watching on WWE Network for the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, I'd watch this Natalya and Lacey Evans match again. Highly recommend that one. And then following up that, you've got Team Hogan, Team Flair. Did you really think Hulk Hogan was going to lose? Hulk Hogan has never lost to Ric Flair. I have to go back and look that one in the record books, but I'm thinking that is true. Hulk Hogan's beat Ric Flair every time. And this was no different. Team Hogan defeated Team Flair. Roman Reigns was the star of this one, of course. And so that whole 5-on-5 thing with them in a Survivor Series type match, that's over. Oh, thank goodness. And then to round out the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, it was The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, taking on Seth Rollins, the Universal Champion. And this was a Falls Count Anywhere match. And I was really interested to see how they were going to book the ending for this one. And if it was going to be actually a clean finish. Because the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view ended so bad, and it was terrible booking by the WWE creative team. And there was so much backlash on it. And fans were upset. And so they had this match at Crown Jewel. And it went to the top of the stage, up on the stage there where they were fighting. And Seth Rollins ended up tossing Wyatt off the stage into an area down below. That area went on fire and fireworks, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff's going on. And so then Seth Rollins goes down there, takes a breather for a minute, starts moving these trunks and stuff. And then Bray Wyatt, of course, like a jack-in-the-box, he pops up from behind him and then locks on the claw in his mouth, and then assists her Abigail to the floor, on the concrete floor, and then a pin, 1, 2, 3, and Bray Wyatt is your new Universal Champion. And so now, kind of leading forward into this, Bray Wyatt is now on SmackDown, and Brock Lesnar has quit SmackDown and has now gone to the Raw show. So, and he's on the hunt for Rey Mysterio, of course, like I said earlier. After the match with Velasquez, Rey Mysterio was beating Brock Lesnar like government mule with the steel chair. And so Brock's pissed. Brock quit SmackDown. Now he's on Raw. And so then Wyatt got drafted to SmackDown, and now he takes the Universal Championship with him. I haven't seen what the belt looks like yet. I'm sure it looks pretty cool. Fans seem to be happy with Wyatt as the new champ. So we'll kind of have to see how that goes. And now you have Seth Rollins. What is he going to do next? We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, I would give it maybe 2.5 stars, if that. Maybe 3 stars if, you're really being generous. But, yeah, it was not one of the best pay-per-views WWE has put out this past year. All right, so we're stepping out of the squared circle. That's about all for this week. I appreciate you tuning into the show. Lots of sports talk. You can follow. We continue this conversation on the social media outlets, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Like I said, you can reach out to me on the show at an email address. It's agoodsportsshow@gmail.com. And then, like I said, on the social media accounts, it's @agoodsportsshow. And I thank you for your support, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. And we will talk to you next week. Take care.